Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this tech role model session. I'm joined by Karen Beckmann, who is Senior Director for IT, effectively the CIO for Rocky Mountaineer, based in Canada. But prior to moving to Vancouver, Karen had over a decade of experience working in the UK. So, hi Karen, thanks for joining us.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. I'm sure the guys will get a lot out of this conversation. What would be useful to start with is you just give us a general overview of your role at the moment, what it is you do, what you're responsible for, and all those kind of things.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Kevin. As you mentioned, I am effectively the CIO. I report to the CEO as part of the executive team for Rocky Mountaineer, and I'm responsible for all of information technology.
What does that mean from a day-to-day basis then? How many people do you manage? Do you get involved technically?
Yeah, so I manage approximately a team of around 25 people who are responsible for infrastructure and IT help desk and security and compliance, application management and support and development and managing those vendors who help us to achieve our applications and any projects that are IT led.
Cool. Excellent. So what would be really good is to understand, how you came to get into this position. I personally know the story, but I think it's really good to share that. So if we go back to probably your degree is the best place to start. 'Cause I know you did a psychology and business degree. So I'm
Yeah.
guessing that as a young person, you never thought you were going to end up working in tech or had dreams of working in tech.
No, actually, as a young person, I didn't know what I wanted to be, and so I went and did a degree in psychology and business at Auburn University in Alabama in the United States. And after graduating there, I moved to Atlanta, and it was a difficult economic time, so there weren't many jobs out there. But I had a friend, and they got me a role at Turner Broadcasting, which is CNN and Cartoon Network. But it was in back office sales, and so I was coordinating business processes there. I then decided I wanted to get a job in my field, which, having a degree in psychology and business, I thought HR would be the way to go. So I worked there for a while and had some experience there. And then we went through a merger, and my department went away. And I was picked up shortly thereafter by the software development team because I had been doing HR training and they were rolling out an HRIS system. So I went over there as a software trainer, learned all about that system, wrote the curriculum, and delivered the training. And then I moved on to the financials ERP implementation. And then I moved into a business relationship management role where I supported the international division of Turner Broadcasting. Got to do things like implement an ERP in Hong Kong, help the company move to the euro currency. It was an exciting time in our international space. And then moved into project management, which I thought was my kind of home. So got my PMP and took some training and delivered financials systems. When I was sitting in a meeting one day, and the director in that meeting said, "Does anybody want to move to London, UK? I've got somebody going on maternity leave." And I was like, "Me?" So that was a great opportunity to go over there where I managed the technology development team for the PeopleSoft financials and HR and for a year. And when that person came back from leave, my boss wanted me to stay. I wanted to stay. So she offered me a job in turning around the IT help desk, which I had never worked in an IT help desk. And
Wow.
so it was a bit of a surprise. And but I took on the challenge. She had faith in me, so I went with it, and that led to an opportunity to lead the support for all of our 30 offices. Um, eight, I had 8 support analysts in 6 countries across Europe, and then she asked me to set up the project management office. So had a lot of great opportunity in London with Turner Broadcasting. Then they went through massive change, and I worked. I took, after taking a nice sabbatical with my family, I worked at a company called Amy, where I was a divisional CIO, but really a business relationship management role, where I sat in the leadership team for a 4,500 person division. And after my second child, we decided to move to Vancouver, where my husband is from. And I took up a job at a company called Quadrille that did property management. I was, after doing a consulting gig with them, setting up their IT vendor management, I took a role as vice president of data management and did that for a few years. And most recently, I have moved to Rocky Mountaineer to be their CIO.
Well, you make it sound so easy, Karen. Like, why aren't we all doing this? There's a few things there that stand out, and that I'd like to drill down into. So I guess one of the first ones is, I think you said the word opportunity there about 17 times. And it strikes me that you've been presented with lots of opportunities, and you've not been shy to take them, even if they're slightly outside of your perceived skill set or comfort zone. And then even within that, there's a few things discussed. So, first of all, why do you think it is that people would specifically come to you for opportunities? Were they personal contacts? Were they sponsors of yours?
Yeah, I think that because I worked for the same company for 20 years at Turner Broadcasting, my name was known, my work was known. I would say that my leader in London was a sponsor of mine and gave me lots of opportunities. But most importantly, people knew my work. They knew what I was up to. And really, I think my secret sauce in that scenario was that I'm focused on continual improvement. So it's all about transforming the IT department, making the processes better, empowering people to lead and be self-sufficient. So I think having that focus gave me the opportunity, for instance, to turn around an IT help desk where I had never had that experience before.
Yeah, and the first, like, what I would call tech role was probably the trainer for the HR systems, and it seems like quite a simple transition because of the subject matter expertise you had in the HR field. But then straight after that, you went into a financials ERP implementation where I'm guessing you didn't have that much subject matter expertise in finance. So what skills do you think it was that were important that you had from your training, your degree, and your early career that really enabled you to be successful in that implementation project management space?
Yeah, so remember that was a business relationship management role. So really, the skills that I brought to the table was being a translator. The IT department was having trouble getting the right requirements from the business, and the business was having trouble articulating the requirements to IT. So really, I was there, sat right next to the business leader, making sure that I understood her needs from a real life, what is the impact perspective, and being able to translate to that to IT. And that is crucial. That is a skill that will take you far in IT.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when we spoke most recently, we were talking about your career and the fact that opportunity you to run the help desk, and like you say, it was something that you'd never done. But I think this is a real key example of showing how to be in a leadership role. You don't have to know everything about the team that you're leading. And I think it's really interesting if we map that against other leadership roles to think does the CIO need to be an expert in data and product and security and software management? Because you were running a large help desk function without ever having worked in that environment or supported the issues that were coming through that help desk.
Yeah, and I think the skills that I learned in that challenge have carried me a long way. Skills like going back to headquarters and saying, hey, does anybody have best practices for the help desk that we can apply? Oh, great, you've got a system for me. Let me use that. Oh, you've got these people to support me. Great. They thought it was fantastic that there was somebody in the European regional headquarters that they could help influence to get on the program, right? So I took advantage of people that I knew that had the knowledge and the tools and the resources that I could take advantage of. In addition, I did research on the internet to understand, what does a good help desk look like, right? And so I can see that you know repeating throughout my career. When I took that consulting gig in IT vendor management, I'd never done that before either, but I'd seen how it can work. And so taking those skills, I was able to make a good impression at the new company in Canada. And then they said, oh, well, if you can do that, you can do data management, which I'd never done before either. Right. And I'm still using those skills today of researching on the internet, talking to people I know, networking to get insight into areas where I might have a weakness.
Yeah. And coming into tech as an outsider, being a non-techie and also, probably being one of the very few women in tech at that time, were there any mechanisms or any techniques you used to try and fit in and get along with the guys?
Yeah, I think, probably back in the day, it was like just become one of the guys. And so it was just trying to be like them as much as possible. And in my early days, it kind of really kept my business and personal life very separate. So I didn't share anything with anybody about who I was outside of the office. And that was kind of a coping mechanism, showing that I was, resolute, good corporate soldier. But I think later on, as I took on leadership opportunities, I realized that that kind of cold, business only person didn't connect with people. And if you're leading people, you need to connect with people. And so that was perhaps the first step into becoming more of myself, which meant being a little more feminine. And from where I was then to where I am now, I'm even more connected personally and comfortable talking about personal things because I believe in coaching and mentoring people, and helping people because you need them in order to succeed. And so I'm still kind of evolving that as well. And I would say even still there is this um, need or expectation that you act a certain way, which is not entirely feminine.
Yeah.
So still a journey. It's still a journey I'm on.
I was going to ask as soon as you said, that you became a chameleon and tried to act like the guys, whether you thought that was the right thing to do. Because in my experience, I think that's probably quite dated advice, and lots of companies these days are looking for diversity, and not because they want the numbers to look right. It's because they genuinely recognise that men and women and all different types of people have different skills, and you need all those different skills to complement each other to make a team. And it's no use everyone thinking the same way.
That's
so I think
right.
it's a really important message that other people watching this should realise is, if you're hired for who you are, not for who they want you to be.
Absolutely. And, again, that was 20 years ago, right? So and I would say absolutely be who you are, because people can't relate to you if you're pretending, right? So it is important to be who you are, but know that there are certain expectations out there that you might have to adjust to.
Yeah. And we've mentioned sponsors. So you said the lady that you were working for that asked you to pick up the help desk. I mean, they did that not because they had a vacancy, but because they were scared of losing you and knew how important you were to the business and come up with a project that you had the skills to do. But also you mentioned mentoring there. Now, people don't know this, but obviously I do, is that you're part of our Women in Tech mentoring program. You're not only a mentor to one of our individuals, but you've also got a mentor through the program, which might surprise some people at the level that you're at. Why do you think it's important for people even at sea level that you are to have that kind of external person to bounce off?
Yeah, I would say that there's two reasons. Number one, this is a role that I haven't had before. So I have been divisional CIO before, but I reported to a group CIO. So this is a new responsibility, and I'm reporting to the CEO, which is a different level, which is the reason that I took this role. So number one, I just want to have somebody to bounce ideas off of as I move up in my career. And number two, it's kind of lonely at the top. Like, you know, you don't, I don't have any peers who understand what I'm talking about in my company, right? I have peers who understand the business, but they don't understand the intricate challenges of being responsible for IT. And so I look to others for insight. I might ask, what does your organizational structure look like? What roles do you find important? What are the trends that you've got that you're managing? How did you handle compliance? Just these different tactics or focuses that that I would want insight into, and conversely that I share with my mentor, right?
Yeah, no. So it's about that one-to-one person you speak to, but I guess it's also a link into an external network, isn't it?
Yes. So for me, networking is quite important, especially in Vancouver. After working in London, where it's such a large city, and people don't have a lot of time to network in London, I find. And also, I had worked for the same company, so I wasn't plugged in to lots of different companies. When I moved to Vancouver, it's a smaller town, and and everybody knows each other, and so you need to get your name known, and you need to be respected in the community to be accepted into the roles that are being interviewed for. So basically, I had a lot of coffee when I moved to Vancouver, and made a lot of connections. And what that's provided for me is not only jobs and opportunities, but also, again, kind of co-mentoring opportunities, and also places to go when I need advice on particular specialties that I don't have expertise in. So I've been able to engage with people in my network, like contractually, who have come on board to support me in this role. So it's the importance of networking. I can't stress enough.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's at every level, in terms of finding a job. I think the first thing you said was your first job is because a friend suggested you go and work for Turner.
Exactly.
You can't put a price on that. And then once you are in a job, we see it across our mentoring community. People that you think should, it's external perception is, they know what they're doing. They've done it about 1,000 times. They always take on new projects on a daily basis, and they're constantly going like, right, who's done this before? How do we tackle this?
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what role you are in the business. You're never expected to know everything and have experienced everything before. And
that's right.
you should lean on others to do that.
And
Go on.
I was just going to say that's something that I've really had to accept in this role, because having the breadth of this responsibility, when I went to interviewing and I started doing research on technical detail that, I don't even need to know, because I have experts in my team who do that, right? Who advise me on it. And so it's definitely, it's a great journey to accept that you don't need to know everything.
Yeah. So this is the role that you've got now, which is reporting to the CEO, so effectively sitting at board level. Has that changed your perception of what IT should be within a business, and the kind of the way that IT should go about trying to add value?
Yeah, I don't know that it's changed my perspective. I think that it's given me a great insight into the company and how all of the inner workings work, and the real limitations that IT can have. I think it's being at this level, it's kind of made me resolved on certain approaches that I take. For instance, having the business advocate for their systems, having the business decide what projects are important, having business ownership of their solutions is really important, because I don't want to be the person deciding who gets their next IT solution. I don't want to prioritize. So it puts IT in a difficult position. So for me, it's all about creating that business-led governance so that they can create their future through our partnership.
Yeah, thanks. And then one other thing that I picked up on when you were talking, there was you just dropped in, had my second child, moved to Vancouver. So how did you manage that? Because a lot of people ask, coming into the mentoring program, looking for support about how do I take a career break, about derailing things. At no point did you say things got put on hold. You were just like progress, 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 had kid progress. So how did that work for you?
Well, I think I had the motivation because I'm the breadwinner. So, I wanted the roof over the head, right? Which was the first thing. But I think it was really great when my husband encouraged us to take that sabbatical. We did 3 months, 12,000 miles in a Ford F-350 and a 30-foot travel trailer from Atlanta to Vancouver. And it was an amazing journey, stressful all the way because I was unemployed. I didn't have a job to go back to. But it was such an amazing opportunity to challenge myself and accept that I can find a job. And so in that situation, as I was landing in the plane back to London, there was a call from a recruiter that ended up being the job I needed. How do I do it with kids? A lot of support from my husband and discipline. I'm very committed, but I don't work extremely long hours on a regular basis. I do create my boundaries and live within them. And my mind might be working outside, but I really try to control my time. Also, I think just how did I do it? When we were moving from London to Vancouver, it was really difficult. I had a 6-month-old. I didn't have the right to work here. I didn't know anybody. And so I think it is just good old perseverance.
Yeah. No, thank you. Some great advice there. We've had one question from our audience, which is about a topic which I know is actually close to your heart. So this person is working in a company which is becoming more data driven, but they don't personally have a background in data, and they were asking for your opinion, which might split the audience, as to where you think data should sit in the organization.
Yeah, so it's an interesting question, and thanks for asking it. I do have a soft spot in my heart for data and enjoy when I can incorporate that into IT. I would say that it depends on which part of data you're talking about, because the type of work I did in data was around data governance, data quality, document governance, and document quality, and kind of that preparation for analytics. And analytics is a different item, so it's kind of in the process. So when I worked at Quadrille as vice president of data management, we started off data management within IT. And I considered that period for about a year and a half of being kind of incubating the data function within IT, because there was appreciation and understanding of the power and need and use of data within IT. But as the team became more mature and we got our tools to support our processes, we established the DAMA processes, and we got a few wins under our belt. We were in stride, and so at that point, we had always planned to move data out of IT and under the chief operating officer. And for me, like, that is either that or the legal department or somewhere outside of IT makes a lot of sense for where that data governance function should reside when it is mature. Regarding analytics, it's an interesting question. If you're talking about the building of the platforms, I tend to think that might need to sit within IT. If you're talking about the use of the data, that might need to sit in the business. At my current company, it sits in the marketing department. However, I think if you want marketing-driven analytics, then it should sit within the marketing department. It could likely need to sit in the chief operating officer function again, or straight to the CEO. So I think it should be independent and not biased by the department it sits in.
Yeah, and I think what's really good is to hear a CIO saying that. It's to recognise that although there are certain things which in that process which you probably want ownership of to make sure that they're built and developed and released in the right way, that actually the insight that's coming out of that is a business thing. It's something that the business should take accountability for and use in the right way. That sounds really good. No, well, thank you very much, Karen. I think the main things that I'm taking from this conversation is it can trust and empower other people. You know, you're obviously very successful, but I think the main skill that you're talking about there in terms of that's driven that is your ability to communicate and connect with the other subject matter experts. So, you know, connecting the business to the tech people, trusting the tech people to do what they do best, and you know, you just make sure you're delivering the right message to them and leading them in the right way. And
Yeah.
you know, obviously, you know, you don't need the technical skills to do that.
And I think the reason that I've had so many opportunities to do so many different things within the technology space is because when I am working with a team, I do create a vision for that team with that team, and give them the path to achieving that vision, giving them the skills and the tools to do their job, and getting them a leader who can lead and sustain that function going forward. And then I get to go and do something fun elsewhere, right? And set up another team. So I've had that opportunity to do lots of things across IT. And as a result, I have a great overview and generalist perspective of the function that allows me to be successful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's also that recognition of knowing your strengths and playing to your strengths and using that to advantage, and then not dwelling on the things that are perceived to be weaknesses, and actually filling those gaps with mentors, the wider network, empowering people below you to actually take accountability for things. I think they're all really important skills that separate the people that end up in the technical roles, the people moving into leadership roles.
Yeah.
You know, you can't be the jack of all trades, can you? You know, you have to.
No, you can't. You can't. And it's amazing if you do get the right leaders, and I tend to hire as much as I can, um, as much skill set as I can. So if you do get the right leaders and you empower them, they're going to want to own that space anyway, right? So you bring them in and have them continue to advise you, and you can put all the pieces together to tell the story at the top.
Cool. So one parting question for me then, just to put you on the spot, thinking about the more junior members of our network who are, you know, about to start on a journey which hopefully is successful as yours. You know, what is that one piece of advice you would give yourself if you were going back to, you know, being a psychology and business graduate and entering the world of work?
I would just say don't hold yourself back. Just go for it, right? Just take the leap, take the chance. What's the worst that can happen, right? So, and if the worst happens, you'll only be stronger for it. So just go for it.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. It's been really
Yeah, my
great.
pleasure. I hope it helps.
The end of the day here, so I'm going to lock off, but you're going to start a day's work now, sadly.
Getting started.
Well, thanks for making time for us before you do that. Cheers, Karen.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Kevin.
Bye-bye.
Bye.